Compare these two episodes of Family Guy and Rick and Morty. Can you tell the difference in the way they were animated? It might look the same, but they're entirely different. One uses traditional animation and the other uses puppet animation. To help us understand how these characters were animated is someone that actually worked on Rick and Morty.
My name is Max Pauson, or Maximus Pauson. I am a character designer, an artist, and a YouTuber.
In the early days of animation, animators had to redraw the character every single frame, like going through a flipbook animation, with each picture showing a small change in movement. Traditional animation is tedious and expensive, and that's why when computers came around, we created puppet animation to try to replace it. Puppet animation is where we take our characters and attach control points to them like you might a puppet. But before going too far into animating, we need to first find a character to animate. The main thing to consider when choosing or building a character is making sure that the character is simple, so we don't have to draw complex shapes every single frame.
If you have a complicated character, you're spending so much time in the animation process just tracking the complicated shapes. But if you have a very simple character, it takes very short of a time to draw, so you can now spend more time like animating and doing crazy poses.
When we have a character in mind, we'll go ahead and find or draw up a style sheet for that character. Style sheets serve as rules and guidelines for the animators. They help animators get proportions just right for every character. Shows sometimes take this a step further and come up with do's and don'ts for characters in the show. For puppet animation, style sheets need to be more accurate than traditionally animated style sheets, and they need to be drawn up in layers since every single part of the character needs to be animatable.
Everything needs to be accurate. You have to think about it and design it in a way that you know that it's going to be made of layers. You might send the animation studio a drawing of the character, but if you know that the arm is going to not be visible in one side of the turn, you'll move the arm to the side so the animators will have something to trace. So it's like you're showing them all the components that they're gonna click together to make the character.
You can also have multiple style sheets per character because shows often redesign their characters for special episodes when the character morphs into something else or something special happens. With the character sheets done, the next step is to rig and animate our character. Since we already have all the drawings from the style sheets, we can start adding control points to our character. So let's take Stewie here. In the show, he's traditionally animated, but we're going to go ahead and make him a puppet. So we'll take Stewie's layered style sheet that we created and add control points to his legs, his arms, and any other part of the body that we want. Since we're not only animating the rotation of these limbs, we also have to add some extra drawings for different angles of the hand, different mouth shapes, and so on.
I just worked on a show based on the movie Merry Little Batman a little bit, and that was a Harmony production pipeline. We had to make a hand turnaround.
Okay.
We had to do a foot turnaround. We had to give them a walk cycle, like the key poses of a walk cycle. We had to draw the head going up and down in every angle. We had to draw a mouth chart that would be for happy, sad, and neutral mouths, but we had to draw it from every angle, including the up and down mouth chart. So it's a lot of assets to make a rig, a ton of assets.
All of these extra drawings are on top of the drawings we already did, just for a regular rig. With the control points added, we now have a rig for our character, and we can move them almost however we want without having to redraw every single frame. If the rig is set up correctly, animators essentially have a 3D model of the character and can pose them however they want, without having to draw anything. Though in some cases, we need to mix these two animation methods because the puppet doesn't have the angles we need.
If you need an angle, if you need a pose like this is not going to be in the puppet. If you need a pose, looking up, if you need the character like stretching or something, that's not going to be in the puppet. So you're going to have to go in and draw it.
This part is simple enough. The character's rig that we created is lined up however we want, and animators simply draw over the frame as if it's traditional animation. Even though Rick and Morty uses puppet animation, that still didn't hold it back from taking over and being one of the best animated shows. And while puppet animation still gets a bad rep, there are of course drawbacks to using both animation styles. If you're creating a short animation, then it's not necessary to use puppet animation because the hassle of setting up a rig for every character. Puppet animations are also known for being more rigid and not showing as much character. Sometimes it's just easier to do a frame-by-frame animation for smaller and smoother animations.
If you remember, like in the intro, like when Marge turns around, her hair like follows her in the intro. Like, that's a really cool look. I wish they would do stuff like that. That's that's something, if you're going to do traditional, do stuff like that.
Even though traditional animation has had a slow decline, it'll always have a special place in my heart. Also, it's not totally gone just yet. There is exciting news for it, but that's for another episode. With that being said, I wanted to end this episode by saying a special thank you to Max for helping me out. I've left everything he recommends down in the description, and I've also left all of my sources for this episode. There are a couple that really helped me out in making the Stewie rig. Thank you for watching, and bye.